So welcome to the Ames Public Library, both in person and on Zoom for this program, Get on Boards, brought to you through a partnership with City of Ames and Story County. I'm Kathy Cooney. I am an adult services librarian here at the library and will be facilitating our lovely panel discussion. The library's mission is to connect you to the world of ideas, which we do through diverse and inclusive resources and programming like tonight's event. For those of you here in person, this room has an induction loop for the benefit of hearing aid users. You just need to switch your hearing aid to T, and we have a hearing assistance device we can lend you as well. For those virtually, please submit your questions through Q&A or chat, which will be linked at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will monitor them to make sure that they are shared. We have also enabled live captioning, which you should be able to turn on by clicking the CC Live Transcript button on your Zoom menu and selecting closed captioning. We're also recording tonight's session and we'll post it to the library's YouTube channel. And if you're interested in more information, we have flyers with QR codes and applications for both the city and county boards on the table by the door. For those of you here in person, if you have questions at the end, we are going to ask that you use a microphone, which I can run around and bring to you, or you can step to the back and use, just so the folks on Zoom can also hear your question. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. And I'm going to go down the line and have you introduce yourselves. Maybe just say your name, which board or commission you're representing, a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Rachel Cramer. I'm with Parks and Rec Commission. I joined last spring, so relatively new to serving in this capacity. I moved back to Ames. Originally went to school here a decade ago and then moved back to be part of a community where I felt like there were a lot of opportunities and work at Iowa State.
Hello, I'm Susan Minks. I'm on the Historic Preservation Commission. I'm in my second term there. I live in Ames, but worked for many years as a neighborhood planner down in Des Moines, and have had a lifelong interest in neighborhoods, communities, and local history. So by coming on the commission after I retired, I was able to kind of get back to my history interests. It's been a lot of fun.
Hi, I'm John Christy, and I'm on the Ames Public Library Board of Trustees. I'm finishing up my second year on the board and recently retired, moved to Ames. I guess it was in June 2019, so it was nice to get here before the pandemic commenced.
Hi, I'm Christine Laumer. I'm on the Story County Conservation Board. I'm in my 7th year on this board. We typically do 2 terms, 5 years. I have lived in Ames since 2009.
Matt Neubauer. I'm on the Story County Board of Adjustment and have been on for about 4 years, something like that. And currently chair of the board. Been in Ames for something close to 20 years. Came here for school and never left. So that's me.
Everybody. So we touched on it a little bit as we went down the line, but I think the first question that I always want to know when I'm thinking about this is what inspired you to join a board or commission, and specifically the one that you did join, but.
So I think for me, the City of Ames Instagram really played a big role because I kept seeing those messages pop up about getting involved, and access to natural spaces and parks was a really big part of my decision to move to Ames. And so it seemed like a good fit. It seemed like there was a lot of momentum to expand amenities. And so I was looking for a way to get involved, and this seemed like a really good opportunity for that.
Well, I've been working in neighborhoods for about 30 years, and a lot of them were older neighborhoods, and I enjoyed working with people. It's where they live. They often have some history involved into it, that they themselves have bring to it. And so, but living in Ames, I hadn't had an opportunity to really be involved in my community. So when I retired, I decided that this is what I wanted to do, is come and serve on the Historic Preservation Commission so that I could kind of get back into neighborhoods again, only where I live. So,
I grew up in a family that's very much community oriented, so I think it was kind of in my DNA. And especially once I retired to, okay, how can I give back to the community? In my prior community that I was in, I was on the Board of Adjustment for 5 years, and I really, found what the benefits of serving on a community group was. And then secondly, as to why the library board, I've always loved libraries. I love reading. I love the resources. And so not only am I a member of the board, but I'm a power user of the services and programs there.
I'll be honest that I was recruited onto our board. I didn't necessarily seek it out. But I think that's really important for me in my decision, because the current board member who recruited me was looking for a different type of person that is typically on our board, especially age range. And so just kind of seeing that they were committed to diversity in the board was inspirational to me. And then, of course, the mission of Story County Conservation really hits home for me personally. And so it was pretty easy to make the decision to at least apply and see if I made it.
Yeah, I had, my dad was very similar. My dad was very involved in boards and things when I was a kid, and my mom was involved in the community too. And at some point I said, I've been here in the area for 20 plus years. And so I came across in the free newspaper that showed up in my mailbox one day, an advertisement from the county that said, we're looking for people to be on boards, and simply sent a letter in without necessarily any idea what it even was. And then talked to one of the supervisors, and they said, we have an opening on the Board of Adjustment. And I think I said something like, well, I don't know what that is. And so why don't you attend a meeting? And I distinctly remember sitting in a meeting, and there was a big discussion going on about how many trailers could be in a trailer park, and a lot of discussion. And I said, oh, yeah, I think I could do this. And so that was kind of how it started.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. What do you most enjoy about being involved in this way? We talked a little bit about giving back to the community, but like, does it kind of meet your expectations? What is it that keeps you coming back?
So I do think it's really fascinating to see how decisions get made and all of the, it is pretty impressive to me how a lot gets done with a pretty small team of people in local government. And I think that it's cool to think that the decisions that we're making today could have an impact maybe a year from now or 5 years from now. And so that for me is a different perspective that I've had from living in other communities.
we have a pretty diverse membership on the Historic Preservation Commission of people who live in historic neighborhoods, as well as people who have a professional involvement or who work in the downtown historic Main Street area, things like that. And they all bring a little bit of something different. Then we also are involved in very hands-on projects. We did received a grant that we had applied for that we participated in another neighborhood this past year in the Chautauqua Park, Brookside area. That was very hands-on, and we were able to bring that to the neighborhood, and it was a very enjoyable time to bring the information that was discovered to them. It's the give and take, it's the partnerships. We've done some things. We're looking at working with the Ames History Museum, as well as the downtown, as well as residents of the Old Town neighborhood. People come in, they have questions, they have homes. They say, how can we live in a historic district? How do we do the windows, or how do we make we want to add a patio, how do we do that in a historic district, things like that. It's very hands-on, practical oriented, but it's people who care about where they live. They have a certain quality that they want to retain in these areas, and we help them problem solve about that. It's a lot of fun.
Although I'm a heavy user of the programs and services here at the library, until you're on the board, you don't realize the behind the scenes and all the policies that are in place that we as a board review every so often. Just the workings of the library. So I've learned a lot. So I would say that's one thing that I've really enjoyed. And then you do get very much a cross section of the community as the other board member. I didn't know any other board member when I was chosen to come on the board. So, it's just nice to, come together with a group of people who in some ways are looking to say, okay, how can I contribute? So for me, it's that whole common good thing. We all have our individual undertakings and goals and things that we want to accomplish, but it's nice to be a part of a group that's kind of looking at the common good. And in this case, how can the resources and services of the public library always be trying to progress and get better.
I'll definitely echo the ability to just see those inner workings and get a much different perspective than kind of your typical resident of the community. And as well as we just have such a fantastic staff at Story County Conservation that I really I enjoy being able to enjoy the benefits of their labor. They are so fantastic, and just getting to interact with them and learn from them and see that the staff is so committed to the betterment of Story County and land conservation and all just their entire mission. It's been so fantastic to work with the staff and see how hard they work for all of us.
I think the most powerful thing for me is just been understanding that the role of the board and safeguarding the residents of the community, making sure that folks, when they're asking for an exception or to a zoning request, basically that's what the Board of Adjustment does, making sure that is being done in a thoughtful manner, that we're asking the right questions and putting the right conditions on that. It's been fascinating to see kind of the back end of how all that works, how the regulations work, and ensuring that there's a group of people that are asking the right questions. That's, I think, what is probably the most powerful part of it for me.
Thanks, everybody. So changing course a little bit, I know that people who may not have been on boards before might not have an understanding of like what the time commitment looks like or what kind of the actuality of being on a board looks like. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So for Parks and Rec, we meet once a month, usually for an hour and a half or so, and it's a 3-year commitment. We usually just vote on, people will present, give updates, whether that's about visitation numbers to the Furman Aquatic Center or the status of the plaza that's going to be out in front of City Hall. And then we'll vote on certain rules that we can make a decision on, or we'll give input that then goes to City Council to make a decision.
The Historic Preservation Commission meets once a month, second Tuesday of a month, Monday of a month, right before the council meeting. So about an hour and a half of time. We have a particular job in that the commission is to review certificates of appropriateness, which means if you live in a historic old town area and you are doing some repairs or alterations or fix up to your home, there may need some design guidelines that you need to look at. And so we review those, what they're proposing to do and make recommendation. And then to the staff and the person themselves comes to the meeting so we can visit with them about what they want to do. Beyond that, there's a couple of reports that we all do. Then we do an annual meeting that we kind of plan what we want to do for the year. And we try to do at least 2 public education pieces. One year we did something for people on the tax credits that can be tapped into when people are doing their homes or businesses or something like that might be involved. The other thing, like this year, we may be tapping into with partnering with the Ames History Museum. There's something that's coming up this spring that they'll have a history day, and we may be assisting with some of that. So we want to make sure that we are putting history of Ames forward in ways that people can tap into it in different ways, and the community can participate in learning more about it. We also have a connection, I think, with the university. We've been fortunate on the commission. We've either had students who are in graduate programs or faculty members or staff who have been members of the board, which is also kind of a very good connection because of all the way that Ames and the university have are hand in hand as far as the history goes. So so that's another way in which we are trying to integrate history into Ames.
The library board meets monthly, the 3rd Thursday of each month, and I would say the meetings last anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. The other thing, each of the board members is assigned kind of a smaller committee within the board. For example, right now I'm on the Director Evaluation Committee with 2 other board members. And so that requires maybe a little bit extra time where we get together, the 3 of us, and then we get together with Sheila, the director. But it's not a huge extra time commitment. I guess the thing I would say is when you're thinking about being a member on a board or commission, you also have to think about, well, I also need to be somewhat an advocate of that board or commission. And so, there might be instances like tonight where you're asked by someone to be, on a panel that tells more about what you're doing. I know there are times when Sheila, who obviously being the library board, she is a part of every meeting that we have, but there will be times when she'll email and say, there's an upcoming community event. Is it possible that maybe 1 or 2 of you might be able to be there? That doesn't happen very often, but you can see why it's important that she makes the request, and it's important that there are people that are willing to go out and kind of be there for those events.
Yeah, similar. We meet monthly, usually first Monday of every month. Our meetings tend to be 2.5 hours or sometimes longer, depending on the type of the year. If it's a budgeting time of the year, then I try to pack snacks. So it kind of depends on what's on our agenda. If it's staff, general staff updates and things like that. If there's a big discussion point, something we know will generate a lot of discussion, I know that'll take up a chunk of our time. Outside of board meetings, I feel like with conservation in particular, you'll get the most out of it if you also, in a way, advocate for the organization. I try to jump in on hikes when I can that are led by our staff, or any program that's led by our staff, and kind of act as a additional volunteer as well, to really just see what they're doing and get involved with what the services that conservation is putting out, so that I can have an even better understanding of what our organization does and the value it brings to the community. And so putting that extra time in is helpful. You know, depends on the time of the year. Sometimes it's a few times a month. Sometimes maybe it's just the board meeting or something like that.
The Board of Adjustment meets monthly as needed. Sometimes there are not any adjustments that are being requested. And the nature of the meeting is typically less than an hour, sometimes a little bit longer. It really depends on how contentious the particular issue is at hand. The adjustment board is in charge of granting adjustments, and in that process, neighbors are notified. So if someone wants to make a change, you know, that's not quite within the zoning regulations. So sometimes that results in nobody being concerned with it. Others, you've got neighbors that do not appreciate the proposal, and so they can come and make them their opinions known. And so it really depends. You know, some of them have been longer than others. We've had a few, not too many, but a few that were several hours, just depending on how contentious a particular issue is. But the time commitment is, really just a few hours a month. We get the materials ahead of time. The staff prepares, the county staff prepares a report on what the questions at hand are, and then they give a presentation during the meeting, and we hear comments from the applicant and those who are supportive or not so of what's suggested. And then I'd say it's a matter of being comfortable making a decision in front of a bunch of people some of whom aren't going to like what you decide. And that can be an uncomfortable position, but the time commitment is really not too much, a few hours a month for the Board of Adjustment.
Thanks, everyone. So now that we know a little bit about how they work, I'm curious to know about some things that your board or commission has worked on or accomplished that you're excited about and want to share.
Past August, we were informed that there was a property owner in Northwest Ames who was interested in selling 50 acres or so of their property to the city to be a park. And if we decided to pass on that, then it would become a development. And as the city is planning for growth, having parks in communities where there aren't other parks is a priority. And so we supported that. And I think why it's so exciting is we're going to get to see the transformation of this property and have public input and also share our input to make sure that this is something that is going to be meeting the needs and wishes of people in our community.
Well, our most exciting recent thing that occurred is last year we received the second largest grant from the State Historic Office to conduct an intensive survey of one of the neighborhoods that had been identified in an earlier preliminary survey of different historic areas in Ames that could potentially be another neighborhood district. And so we were able to hire a couple of students and who were graduate level, actually. So they were kind of paraprofessional and able to do more in-depth research on some of these areas, as well as do a considerable amount of photography. There were 150 some odd properties that are in this neighborhood. And it was all done mostly in the summer and early fall. And then we had a presentation here at the library in October, inviting the neighbors to come and see some of the photos and hear some of the survey history of the area. And it was what was exciting for us is that afterwards, people who live in the neighborhood came forward and said, you know, we have the original house plans in our attic, or we found this, that, or other when we moved in and stuff. And it was just like, really, so we were able maybe to connect them to the Ames History Society with some, the Ames Museum staff, so that they could maybe make copies of some of the elements and things that they had found. So that was a very exciting thing this past year.
Before I became a member of the library board, a strategic plan was completed. And so I guess in terms of a sense of accomplishment, what I really enjoy about being on the board now is obviously that's front and center in Sheila's mind a lot of the time, and her leadership team and the staff of the library. You can see them when they come before us. We have a board education aspect of each board meeting, where Sheila oftentimes brings a staff or a couple staff members to talk about a certain area or project related to the library. And to hear that from those individuals, to become more educated in the different aspects of the work of the staff of the library, as a board member and as a community member, it just gives me a good sense of accomplishment, because we can see that, okay, this strategic plan, whether it's inclusion related to making sure there are materials for every member who uses the library, or in the area of diversity, equity, inclusion, or in staff development, we're actually seeing that in action. So I don't point to a specific accomplishment, but overall, I think that's what I really value about, okay, seeing the work underway toward a plan. That makes me feel good as a board member.
Man, I feel like it's hard to pick. The last few years at conservation have been really incredible capital projects. We've got the Tesco Environmental Learning Corridor out at the Research Park, and with that, the paving of the Heart of Iowa Nature Trail. There's the lake restoration at Hickory Grove Park. So some of those like big things are really great to see. Something though a little different that stands out that I think is kind of really forward right now is we have the last couple of years, we've developed a really unique and kind of leading the way in Iowa water quality monitoring program. And again, our staff is fantastic, and we did have to kind of push for the water quality staff person for the county, and it was something that was really important for us, and we just kind of kept at it. And we've had a review of it the last couple of years, and the work that this person has been able to do, because we have a dedicated person there, has been incredible. And it's just so encouraging to see those efforts pay off in a great way.
I've had the privilege of seeing quite a number of decisions that where homeowners have come in, and we've been able to help them find a solution to their problem about the siting of their home or their construction project or whatever it might be. Quite a bit of emergency service type things, some towers that were approved to help the communication network, things like that. I would say probably the one that I'm most proud of the board's decision on is one that was another contentious one. It was a camp for addicted youth treatment. And of course, in that situation, there's a lot of subjectivity in terms of trying to decide if this is going to meet the qualifications and not harm neighbors who are concerned about property values and things like that. And hearing all the evidence, I think we made the right decision and approved their permit, but that was a very, very contentious one that I remember, and one that I'm probably the proudest of, because it was probably the hardest decision that we had to make.
Thank you all for sharing that. I think we've covered like a good amount of the scope of what your boards do. Is there anything else that you would want to share, either about your board specifically, or that for someone who's considering joining or applying to join a board or commission? It's okay if there's not.
Touched on it, but yeah, being on one of these boards, it's not just passive. You can raise concerns or issues you have. I mean, people in our commission might mention, oh, I use the ice arena, and I noticed that there are some dips or there are some issues with the ice, and they can direct staff to maybe look into that and realize, oh, we need to completely drain it and re-level the sand. Or, there are ways that we can contribute versus just hearing the information and voting yay or nay. And so I just wanted to reiterate that it can be a really cool way to bring forward what you're noticing into these decisions.
I would say I've been fortunate to participate in this commission during a time where we've had a very active membership. And it's made it very interesting. People who have sought to be on the commission are people who have an interest in the history and maybe bringing it from different aspects like real estate or formerly working with different kinds of, one was a fellow who I think is also on the History Museum who had background in traffic and stuff, but lived in an older home and had quite a lot of researching older homes. It is what you make it anytime you serve on a commission. I mean, I think people who get on, obviously they have an interest in learning as well as in what can I bring to the table and how can we further what the goals of the commission are. So it's a great way to meet other activists in your community and maybe in a particular area of interest.
Iowa has a state library association, and I don't know if I have the right title of it, but when you're a board member, Sheila and Melissa, who is her administrative assistant, make certain that the board members are aware of opportunities for board education just on certain issues that we might want to learn more, like as you all know, book challenges, whether a book should or shouldn't be in a library are becoming more prevalent. And so there will be statewide workshops, oftentimes online, that you can register for and just, take advantage of. I've taken advantage of a few of those. And then there are also library associations, which the library is connected with, and they will have day-long conferences that most of us can, if we choose. And I'm retired, I might have more possibilities than someone still working, but they offer sessions online that you can be a part of it if you're a board member. So what I'm basically saying is there's a lot of opportunity for education, to learn just how other boards, library boards, are confronting issues, how they might be addressing issues. So those are valuable too.
I would say one of the things that was tough for me at first is it was very intimidating. A couple of my board members or co-board members are really well known in the Iowa and Midwest and their history and careers in conservation and ecology and also in extensions. And, I can see their resumes and see like, okay, it totally makes sense that they're on this board. And at first wondering like, what can I bring to the table? But I just had to, get in there and start participating and see that my experience living in the Ames community and just having, again, a kind of a difference in age range from my board members brings a different perspective. And that, just like, don't be afraid to try it out and see how you can be a part of it and make a difference, I suppose.
Well, I would certainly second the intimidation factor when you first get on the board. But I tell you that, there's such a need on boards for people that are community minded and want to help folks make reasonable decisions about what the future of your community looks like. There's a deep need for this. So I would encourage you to really think about it. It's the staff, the county staff, for example, fantastic about helping us figure out how the rules of order are supposed to work, et cetera, keeping us on task there. And the other board members, universally helpful and welcoming and helping me at least figure out what I needed to do when I first came on. So a very welcoming group.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I'm also going to put our city and county representatives on the spot a little bit. We have Sandra King, who's the Director of External Operations and County Services, Amelia Schoenman, who's the Planning and Development Director for the county, and Renee Hall, who's the City Clerk for Ames. So if there's anything that any of you want to share about boards and commissions or anything that you want interested folks to be aware of, Susan has a microphone back there and you're welcome to share. You don't have to. You can. Yeah. And this way you get to be on the camera for Zoom too.
Yeah. Stand up by Kathy. Okay, I will do that. Thank everybody for coming. Looks like the panel did an excellent job of sharing some really good information with you. So if you're interested, have ever thought about being on a board or commission, I would certainly encourage you to fill out an application before you leave. Story County has its application here, along with a list of about 8 boards and commissions that we have. The terms are listed on the back, and also information about the vacancies that we have and so forth. So I really encourage you to pick up one of these. I can certainly pass those out. I don't want to give anybody any extra paper if you don't want any, but if you could raise your hand, I will pass out an application and information about our boards. Okay. All right, I'll bring those around.
All right. Renee, would you like to say some things as well?
I'm Renee Hall and I'm with the City of Ames. And I just want to let you know, we have approximately 21 boards and commissions through the City of Ames. And right now, we have 42 vacancies. So seems like a lot, but when you have 15 or 21, there's always turnover and we're always recruiting. So most terms are 3 years. Time of commitment ranges from 3 to 8 hours a month, we say, just with background stuff and meetings and any follow-up that might have to be done. You're always welcome to attend a meeting and see if you like it and want to join. They're always posted on our website on the main page under public meeting notice. And you can apply for up to 3 boards at a time and you can just rank them how you want. Then the mayor kind of does a analysis of all the applications that come in. He might call you and discuss your background. He will partner with our department heads to kind of filter and see where that person best would serve. So there's a long process and our deadline is next Friday, February 3rd at 5 o'clock. So if you're interested, go to our City of Ames webpage and on the front, you can click boards and commissions and it'll shoot you out to all the different ones we have available. And I have one list here where we have the openings and then in parentheses, you'll notice those are incumbents who could re-up again if they wanted to, but we haven't been told yet. And then the vacancies that we have. So yeah, we would love to have you. Love to have you. Thank you.
And in addition to like the print applications over there, we also have a sheet that has a list of the county boards that are recruiting and a list of all of the city boards and QR codes that will take you to the digital applications. So